The story of the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar begins with the larger legacy of the coin itself, a coin that first emerged in 1964 as a national memorial to President John F. Kennedy following his tragic assassination in November 1963. The American public loved the new design, and the coin became instantly iconic, carrying with it powerful emotional meaning and a sense of national unity. For years, the Kennedy half-dollar remained a symbol of honor, respect, and patriotic pride, and by the time 1971 arrived, the coin had already gone through several important transitions in both composition and purpose. Within this historical setting, the 1971 issue marked one of the most significant turning points in the entire series, because it represented the first year that the half-dollar was officially struck in a copper nickel-clad composition for general circulation, ending the era of silver in regular issue U.S. half-dollars. From 1965 to 1970, the Kennedy half-dollar had been produced. With a reduced silver alloy containing 40% silver, a compromise made after the removal of 90% silver coins from circulation in the mid-1960s due to rising silver prices and widespread hoarding of precious metal coinage. By 1970, however, economic conditions, shortages, and continued hoarding forced the United States Mint to eliminate silver entirely from the half-dollar when struck for circulation. As a result, beginning in 1971, the half-dollar debuted in a modern-clad alloy, made of outer layers of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This change aligned the half-dollar with the composition already used for quarters and dimes, and placed the coin fully into the era of modern base metal coinage. The 1971 Kennedy half-dollar therefore stands not only as a date, but as a milestone, a marker of the moment when silver half-dollars ceased to be part of everyday American commerce and became relics of the past. The design of the 1971 coin continued. The familiar portrait of John F. Kennedy, created by chief engraver Gilroy Roberts on the obverse. The sharp, youthful profile of the 35th president remained one of the most recognized images on U.S. coinage, and for many Americans, the half-dollar was not only a piece of money but also a small tribute carried in the pocket. The reverse design, crafted by Frank Gasparo, features the presidential coat of arms, an eagle with a shield holding an olive branch and arrows surrounded by stars, and the inscription, United States of America and half-dollar. This imagery reinforced the sense of dignity and national symbolism that the coin carried even after its silver content had been removed. For collectors, historians, and coin enthusiasts, the 1971 issue is intriguing because it captures the intersection of artistry, economics, and political memory. The production of the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar took place at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with both facilities striking millions of coins for general use. Despite the high mintage, many of these half-dollars never circulated widely. By the 1970s, American consumers were already moving away from using half-dollar coins in daily transactions, and banks ordered fewer of them as time went on. The half-dollar was still produced in large numbers, but it gradually became more of a collector piece, and a coin often found in Rolls bank vaults or coin collections rather than in cash registers or pockets. This decline in circulation created a fascinating paradox where the coin remained culturally important, yet rarely seen in practical everyday use. The 1971 issue represents one of the last decades where the half-dollar was intended to serve as a circulating denomination, even though it slowly drifted out of common transactions. One of the interesting aspects of the 1971 coin is the existence of strike variations and mint errors, which draw attention from collectors. Although no silver circulation strikes were produced in 1971, some rare error coins exist that were accidentally struck on leftover silver-clad planchets from 1970. These extremely rare pieces are highly valuable and reflect an unusual transition moment at the mint when the shift from silver to copper-nickel was fully underway. Beyond these rare errors, the the majority of 1971 half-dollars appear with the typical characteristics of clad coins of the era, including sometimes weaker strikes, particularly on the eagle's feathers, and the hair details on Kennedy's portrait. These details make the 1971 issue an educational example for collectors, studying the differences between silver and clad strike quality and how mint equipment and planche hardness affected the final appearance of coins. The broader historical background of the period also enriches the story of the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar. America in the early 1970s was entering a new phase, socially, politically, and economically. The country had faced the turbulence of the late 1960s, the ongoing Vietnam War, and shifting attitudes toward government institutions. Amid this climate, the image of Kennedy on the half-dollar continued to symbolize hope, inspiration, and the memory of a more optimistic era. The coin served as a small but meaningful reminder of Kennedy's famous call to civic responsibility and unity, his leadership during Cold War tensions, and the enduring impact of his presidency on American identity. As Americans carried or collected the 1971 half-dollar, they were not just holding currency, but also carrying a piece of national memory. The 1971 Kennedy half-dollar also reflects the evolution of the U.S. mint's production methods and the country's approach to coinage metals. Rising metal costs forced a shift away from traditional silver coinage and paved the way for the modern clad system that remains in use today. This change also influenced how future generations perceived coins. Instead of viewing them as objects with intrinsic metal value, Americans began to see them purely as tools of exchange. The 1971 half-dollar stands as an emblem of that transition, and it remains a teaching point for numismatists who study how currencies adapt to economic realities, shortages, technology advancements, and public demand. While the design remained largely unchanged, the 1971 issue helped cement the Kennedy half-dollar as a permanent part of American numismatic culture. Even though circulation declined, the coin maintained a strong following among collectors who appreciated its symbolism and artistic quality. The coin's popularity also inspired commemorative issues in later decades, including anniversary strikes, high-grade collector's editions, and the continued fascination with earlier silver varieties. Many collectors begin with Kennedy half-dollars, and for them, the 1971 coin often becomes a central piece in a complete date and mint set collection, because it marks the beginning of the modern clad era. Over the decades, the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar has gained significance not because it is rare, but because it represents a pivotal chapter in American coinage history. It captures the end of silver circulation coins, the continuation of a beloved national tribute, and the shifting role of coinage in American society. For a 2-hour exploration of its history, one can delve into the political context of Kennedy's presidency, the artistic decisions behind the coin's creation, the economic pressures that shaped its metal content, the technical minting details of the 1971 issue, and the cultural significance that has kept the Kennedy half-dollar alive in the hearts of collectors and historians. The 1971 Kennedy half-dollar continues to be a window into the past, a coin that connects modern collectors with the emotional legacy of the 1960s.